Hello, everyone. This is Data Engineer 1, and welcome back to another episode of Writing Data Pipelines with Kedro. In today's video, we're going to be writing the Kedro Spaceflights tutorial pipeline. Are you guys excited? I'm excited. I really like this tutorial. It's very good. Okay, so to get started, let's open up our asciinema, begin the record, and then we're going to attach to a tmux session. Let's go ahead and start one up. And we're off to the races. So first, we have to make sure that Kedro is installed, right? So make sure that you have Kedro installed. Of course, I hope you have Kedro installed already. If you don't, very easy, pip install Kedro. It's right there in the Artifactory, and it'll just download and install. And as you can see, everything is already satisfied. Oops, but my pip version is out of date. Next, we're going to create a new project. So we're going to do Kedro new, and we're going to call the project, as it says here in the tutorial, Kedro tutorial. This spaceflight tutorial, very nice. We're going to go through most of the steps here, not necessarily all of them, but I think we'll highlight some of the things I think are really nice. Okay, we're going to call it Kedro tutorial. The repository name is going to be called Kedro tutorial. This is fine. And then the package name is going to be Kedro tutorial with the underscore. Okay, here we go. Should we generate an example pipeline? No, not this time. We're going to be writing our own example pipeline. Okay, cool. So whenever you start these projects here, what you should do after you cd into the folder itself, which is Kedro tutorial, you can first move, as it says here, the credentials YAML from the base to the local. This credentials YAML file is the file that's actually supposed to contain all of your credential data. So this is your secret data. And by moving it into the local version of the configuration, what you're doing is you're actually hiding it from Git. And so then that way you can still push your pipeline code without accidentally pushing your credentials. Okay, cool. So we can add any credentials and etc. We can also set up logging. We're going to skip that for now, and we're going to continue on forward. Okay, so first what we're going to do is we're going to add some data sets to our data folder. The problem right now is that we don't have any data in this Kedro pipeline, so we're going to go and grab some first. We're going to go inside of here, this data folder, inside of the raw, and we're going to just download these CSVs. There's a few ways that you can download these CSVs, but the easiest way, of course, is just using curl. So we're just going to use curl to go to these websites, download these CSVs, and then pop them in. Okay, let's go for it. 1, 2, 3. Let's paste. Pasting in now. And there it goes. I hope I didn't download a Trojan. No, just kidding. Of course, we didn't download any Trojans from our Git repository. Okay, great. So we got all the curls. Now what we have to do is we have to set up our catalog. So now that we have the data, what we're trying to do is make sure that the data is available to our Kedro pipeline. The way that we do that is we set up our catalog file. So the catalog file is the file that contains all of the data that will be accessible to our pipeline. So inside of here, we have a lot of extra comments here on what things that we can do, on some examples. What we're going to do is we're just going to use this one right here, companies type CSV dataset. We're going to copy this guy right here, and then we're going to paste it in. Of course, my Vim configuration has messed up the format. Let's go ahead and hit set paste, and then try that one more time. Cool. So right here, what we're saying is there's going to be a data set in Kedro called companies, and its type is going to be a CSV. The CSV location is right here inside of the file path, which is companies.csv. Reviews, same thing. We're going to have two data sets called companies and reviews, and they're both going to be available to Kedro. And you can see here, there's an example that you can use Kedro IPython to check like what data is inside of there. So we can actually write that and go ahead and do that. So we can do Kedro IPython. And so this will start up an IPython REPL with Kedro context already available. So there's going to be the catalog that's available. Oops, and the reason why that didn't work is because I'm not in the correct folder. So you got to make sure that you are in your root folder, and in our case, it's Kedro tutorial. So here we are, we have the IPython started up, and we can go ahead and type in context .catalog.load companies. And so what this is doing is we're saying, okay, from the context, this is basically the project that your Kedro is running in. So this has all the data about your current Kedro pipeline. The catalog is the data catalog, which contains all the data for that pipeline. And then this load function here is just loading. And again, the data that we're loading comes from here. It was specified inside of the catalog. And we're saying load this companies. And what is this company's data set? This is the CSV data set that is located at this file path. So if we do that, we can see the head, and it failed to get the data set. And that's because the CSV file might not actually be in the right folder. So let's go ahead and check. Did we put it in the right folder? cd data 01 raw. It looks like our curl command didn't quite give us the data. So let's go ahead and give that another shot. Here we go. Copy once more, copy it here, paste it here, click this, and then we're gonna say, it says we failed to create. I see. And that's because the reason is the final output here, this O, and I wasn't paying attention, was going into the raw folder. So I should have executed it from the root folder. That's the actual issue. So there it goes. I wasn't paying attention to the first error. That's how it happens. So now that we've done that, we should be able to load our catalog. Here we go, run the head, and there's the data. And if we also do head manually inside of our terminal, we should be able to see that O1 raw companies CSV has the same ones. There they are. There's the companies, and they end with Sao Tome and Principe, of course. Okay, great. So now that we've got the data sets set up, there's another thing that we can do, and we can actually create our custom data sets. So we have a few tutorial videos on this already, but we can go ahead and go through. And so Kedro already does have the ability to read Excel files, but in this case, what we're going to be doing is we're actually going to be rewriting this data set to do the Excel files just as an exercise. So again, this data set is going to read Excel files as well as write Excel files. Let's go ahead and make that first directory here, make directory P, source, Kedro tutorial IO. And then inside of here, we're going to just go ahead and touch a init.py file. So what I'm doing is I'm just creating the init.py file inside of the IO. Inside of that, what we're going to do is we're going to actually open it up, and we're going to put some code in that file. So this is inside of the Kedro tutorial IO module folder. And here's the code that we're going to pull in. Now this is an Excel data set. Again, Kedro has the ability to run Excel and read Excel files already built in, but we're just building this data set for the exercise itself. So here we go. We have the Excel data set. The description here is just allowing you to print the data set to like logs. So you have the ability to see like what arguments were used, what file path, et cetera, et cetera. And these arguments are going to be specified here in this init. So the init is going to create the data set itself. And these are the arguments that will be available inside of that Kedro catalog. So when you go back here to use the Kedro custom data set that we're writing, you actually can just modify that inside of the base catalog.yaml. There's some instructions here, what these things are, the engine, the file path, et cetera, et cetera. We're not going to necessarily go through all the details here, but lo and behold, just this one quick one, we're going to read the Excels using pandas as well as write the Excels using pandas, and it's going to be a pandas data frame. So we're going to go ahead and copy this guy, and then we're going to paste it here, set paste it inside of our Excel data set, inside of our Kedro tutorial IO init py. So we're creating a module called IO. Inside of that IO module, we are creating the data set that is available to us. So this is the Excel data set. Okay, so we created the data set, and now we can update the configuration inside of our catalog to use the data set in order to read our shuttles data set. All right, so we go here, shuttles, and then the type is going to be our custom type, which is the Kedro tutorial IO Excel data set. And I believe actually it's so funny. This tutorial might have a typo. I'm going to go ahead and tell them about that later. But basically, you want to point your path to where you saved that module. So our module is currently inside of source, Kedro tutorial, IO, and inside of the init. And inside of the init, because it's automatically added to the module when you initialize the module itself, that Excel dataset will be available to us. And then so we're going to have the file path be our raw shuttles.xlsx folder file here. Go ahead and add 2 spaces so that we can cover all our OCD friends. And then that should be it. So let's go ahead and why don't we do this? We can even start up our Kedro IPython and let's check if it actually worked. So here we go. Load shuttles. We're going to load up shuttles and bada bing, bada boom. It's loading the shuttles. It's a Excel file, so it's going to be a little bit longer. And we should hopefully get that soon. There it is. Okay, so our custom dataset worked. And again, this custom dataset is a dataset that is just an example. The truth is that we already have Panda's Excel dataset, and this will work with your Excel without having to rewrite that dataset out of the box. Okay, so now this is going to be the final portion that we're going to be running, is we're going to be doing our pipelines. So this is going to be exciting. So Kedro, of course, very important because it allows you to connect all of your computations, connect all of your data sets by using pipelines. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to create some nodes that we are going to connect with the pipeline. So we can go in here, Kedro tutorial, pipelines, and then we can actually go ahead and do it inside of this folder called data engineering. Data engineering. I'm going to say make this directory. And then the things that we need inside of the directory are, we need an init file, as well as we're going to be using our nodes.py file. So let's go ahead and use that nodes.py file, and we're going to open up that node.py file. So this nodes file is going to contain all of the functions that we're going to be using for our nodes. And so here are some of the functions. It's like an is_true, which will check if x is equal to t, parse percentage, which will just parse the percentage out and turn it into a float, parse money, all these kind of cleaning functions, as well as these processings on the companies, the shuttles, and that's it really. So the reason why you want to do these processing sometimes is because the data doesn't come in completely clean. And so as a result, you need to do this extra calculation in order to make sure that you can use the data for your data sciencing. So the data doesn't come in clean, so you have to make it clean so that you can do your data sciencing. So let's go ahead and copy that, and we're going to paste it inside of here. So let's go ahead and open this guy up, set paste, and paste. And so there we go. We've got all of our functions, and these guys come with their docs, and it's really nice because Kedro actually uses this documentation in order to show you what things are running. You can actually do Kedro build docs, and it'll build all the documents for you, which is actually really, really cool. Okay, so we have that. And now that we have all of our nodes, let's go ahead and assemble. Nodes assemble. We're going to do it inside of here, the pipeline.py. So this is inside of our data engineering module still. We're just going to go ahead and create this create pipeline function, these quarks. And we're going to return a pipeline. Here we go. And so we can go ahead and just open this out. And then let's go ahead, set paste, and paste it in. There we go. We're returning a pipeline, but don't forget, we have to make sure that we are importing our library. So we're importing the pipeline library, and we're importing the nodes that we're actually using. So this comes from, again, the nodes that we just wrote, and each of them will run. And now if we can take a look really quickly, we're going to break down this pipeline. you can see here, each of these nodes that we wrote in the previous step is being passed in as a function to this node function. And so what happens here is that it's going to be that this node function is going to be called when this node runs. So this function is going to be called when the node runs. But what are the arguments for the function? The arguments are going to come from this inputs. So again, if we take a look at that particular node function, so this is inside of Kedro tutorial data pipelines. I'm sorry, data engineering. I'm sorry, it goes inside of here, which is first pipelines, data engineering, and then our nodes. And so we can see here, preprocessed companies takes companies Panda data frame as an argument. But where does that Panda data frame come from? It comes from right here when we pass the input in. So this input pulls this companies from where? Pulls it from bada bing, bada boom. I'm sorry, I'm inside the wrong folder. It pulls it from our catalog file right here. So companies, here it is. So this catalog file is determining that this file companies as a CSV is going to be read into a pandas data frame. This pipeline says that pandas data frame is going to be the input to this function preprocessing. And then this node says that preprocessing companies is this function that will take a company's data frame and then output a new data frame after we modify it. And so the things that we're doing to this data frame is we're just checking this IATA approve is true. We're just kind of cleaning up the data. This was this company rating. So we're turning this into a Boolean, and then we're turning this rating into a float as determined by the previous functions here. And so again, this is how you basically construct all of your pipelines in Kedro. You want to take these data sets that come from the catalog, you want to put them into your pipelines, and then run that data over your nodes. And then the node output here, we can just say, okay, it goes into this new data set called preprocessed companies. But wait a second, we actually didn't mention that preprocessed companies was inside of our catalog file, right? Well, so that's the reason is that by default, using the default mechanisms in Kedro, it'll turn this data set into like an in-memory data set. So it'll actually run this in memory so that when you want to input it into another place, it'll automatically input in the other place. You don't have to write it to disk. But if you want to write it to disk, all you have to do is you just add in a new entry here called pre-processed companies. So this will actually then be the injected data set for that data. And so we have another video talking about in data set injection. So we can say here, raw, and then we can say pre-processed companies. Okay, great. Cool. So now that we've created that pipeline, let's go ahead and put it into our main pipeline. And this is the pipeline that Kedro calls. It's inside of Kedro tutorial pipeline.py right here. And then we're going to go ahead and just copy paste from the tutorial itself. Delete, set paste, paste that in. And here we go. What we're doing is we're importing this pipeline, right? And so this is the pipeline right here. This pipeline file, you can see it's called data engineering pipeline.py. We're calling this function, this module, putting it into here, renaming it as DE, and then calling the function itself create pipeline right here inside of our main create pipeline. And so this is the one that Kedro context is going to call by default in order to create our pipelines. Cool. So let's go ahead, write that. Let's write that, and let's give it a go. Let's go and say Kedro run node pre-processing companies. And so which node is this going to run? This node is going to run this node right here, pre-processing companies, which, if you remember, we already did a data injection for, and thus we will actually get an output. So if we actually do a really quick ls, we can see inside of our data folder that there's only these three things for raw data. But according to our catalog, if you take a look at that catalog one more time, we can see that we're going to get a new file called preprocessed companies. Let's go ahead and do Kedro run preprocessing companies. So we run that. Kedro is going to go ahead and start to load the data, load the catalogs, run the nodes, and then rewrite it. And so we should be getting an output that's similar to this. Here we go. And there it goes. It ran the node and it completed the task. And now if we ls inside of the raw, there it is, our preprocessed company's CSV file. And this, again, was the output of the pipeline here, preprocessed companies, which is the function that we wrote inside of here, which will then process the companies by applying a Boolean as well as applying a float. Cool. Okay, let's go ahead and keep going. So we can also persist. This is exactly what we did. This is the dataset injection. We can do it for both pre-solve process as well as the companies. We can go ahead and grab that in and put that in really quickly. And they saved it inside of the intermediate. I, of course, saved it somewhere else. And then when we rerun this, Kedro run, we should be able to see inside of data to intermediate, there's going to be stuff. Okay. So let's go ahead and wrap it up there. I think we've already gone pretty far. And then in our next video, what we're going to be doing is we'll continue with the tutorial. Okay, well, I hope you guys learned something. And if you liked what you saw, you can button that like, sub that scribe, and ring that ding when you want to know I'm pipelining. Okay, cool. All right, take care, everyone. Goodbye.